Brothers. Data commandeers the ship, travels to a mystery planet, and makes a startling discovery.
We begin with Riker interrogating a kid named Jake, who played a prank on his brother during a game of laser tag, where he made his brother think he'd killed him with a real laser.
It was just a joke, sir. I didn't think this was gonna happen.
His little brother ended up running away into the woods and eating a plant that contained deadly parasites, and now he is in medical care.
I thought it was disappointing that they chose to use the conference room instead of the interrogation room that we've seen before. Data is taking the kid to see his brother in sickbay when he suddenly gets all weird and the music tells us something is wrong.
Starbase 416. And their laboratory can isolate.
Can isolate what, sir?
Yet another problem with Data, the super safe android that everyone keeps saying they don't have to worry about.
Data goes to his station, sets a new course, increases her speed, and turns off life support for the bridge.
He doesn't respond to any questions, so everyone sees that he's acting weird, but no one says or does anything about it. I could tell at this point that this was going to be a great episode. When Geordi is unable to override the controls from engineering, they finally figure out that Data is still on the bridge.
Picard wants to separate the saucer section, which theoretically should give them back control. But Data impersonates Picard using that trick he got from Wesley in that other episode.
That's the captain's voice.
It's pieced together from words he's used on the intercom. With this, I can pretend he's ordering me to take the Enterprise anywhere.
Computer. Recognize Picard. Jean-Luc. Alpha 2 clearance.
And disables anyone else from controlling anything. I like the shot where Data turns on the force fields and all we hear is Riker's voice.
What the hell was that? He's activated a force field, sir. Great.
Picard tells O'Brien to disable the transporter, because they suspect that Data might try to beam himself somewhere. And Beverly says they have to get the sick kid to a medical facility.
I did like the little touch of using the force field in place of gloves.
Yeah, that was cool.
Data locks the bridge and makes his way to a transporter room.
Before he goes, he sets up a security code to gain access to command functions from other locations, and he makes it 6,000 digits long.
173467321 Charlie 32789777 Tango 73.
As Data heads for the transporter room, security teams attempt to stop him with their usual ineptness. And I like how Data rubs it in all their faces by walking very slowly. And I also like how they already know he's setting up force fields, but they keep walking into them anyway, and they don't communicate with each other at all while this is happening.
Data finally transports down to a planet in a mad scientist lab, where it turns out this whole ordeal is because he's been summoned by his creator, Dr. Soong, who was previously thought dead.
You're right on time.
His makeup was very convincing.
It was better than what we've seen before.
But it was also worse than other things we've seen before.
Way to totally negate my point.
Dr. Soong is also played by Brent Spiner.
In an over-the-top, goofy, old person way. I will point out that they are much better at doing split screen than in previous episodes.
That's true. I was legitimately impressed by some of it.
Meanwhile, back on the Enterprise, things are getting much worse for the infected kid because Beverly is telling him the stupidest jokes ever.
You heard the old story about the man who goes to his doctor?
He says, "Doctor, it hurts when I raise my arm like this." The doctor says, "Son, don't raise your arm like that."
Geordi determines that they may be able to redirect energy from the quarantine field in sickbay to cancel out the field blocking the bridge. And Picard says, "Do it. The life of one child is insignificant next to the life of a starship captain."
And somebody points out that Beverly would also be there, and he said, "Good." The crew manages to get back on the bridge, but Picard doesn't know the super huge code Data set earlier.
732 Victor 7311788 7324767.
I like how they're so surprised that after everything Data's done, he would also set up a code.
It seems like they can't think ahead even one step. They have to wait until they actually get there. Worf picks up one human down on the planet, and...
A small vessel. Entering orbit. I detect no life forms aboard, sir.
And I immediately suspected it was Lore. Down on the planet, Dr. Soong, who at times appears to be doing a bad Yoda impression, has Data perform some inhuman feats.
Truly impressive.
He asks Data why he joined Starfleet, and Data asks why Soong created him, and they have a whole discussion about the meaning of life.
As an unintended side effect, Lore is also summoned by Dr. Soong's signal. And I really, really like how he says he was picked up by the Pakleds of all people.
I spent nearly 2 years drifting in space. If it hadn't been for a fortunate encounter with a pack-led trade ship, I'd still be out there.
Soong reveals that he is dying, so any questions that need to be answered have to be done now.
Back on the Enterprise, the exchange between Picard and Geordi sounded like a typical one between an IT guy and a clueless customer.
We can't even locate the file address. At least that would tell us how many digits we're talking about. Not that it would really help much.
I want something that will really help.
They're basically going to attempt to boot the Enterprise in safe mode and trick the computer into thinking they are Data.
Lore is upset at Dr. Soong for having been taken apart, and Soong reveals that Lore lied about Data being a less perfect android.
He's also mad because instead of fixing him, Soong decided to build Data instead.
He says,
The next logical step was to construct Data afterward. I planned to get back to you, to fix you.
And that didn't make any sense.
Soong says the root of Lore's problems was his emotions, so logically he makes an emotion chip for Data. But it's supposed to be a refined version that won't cause him to go crazy.
Dr. Soong says he needs to rest before he can install it.
And Laura seems totally okay and at peace with the decision to help Data and not fix him.
Dr. Soong operates on Data, and he starts acting very Lore-like. Surprise, it's f***ing Lore. And I was impressed with how stupid Dr. Soong was to not figure it out.
Yeah, but even though Data pointed out everything Lore had done, Soong just kind of glosses over it.
Soong tells Lore that he must remove the chip, but Lore throws him aside and then beams out.
The crew gets down to the lab, they find Soong, and they reactivate Data, and they have a heartfelt farewell.
Goodbye, Data.
Goodbye, Father.
Riker tells Data about the kid who's about to die and that they need to hurry up, so of course they talk really slowly.
They eventually get back up there, and it's also revealed that Data stole Dr. Soong's dinosaurs.
Beverly makes a f***ing pun.
He'll remain in quarantine for another week or two, but he's out of the woods.
You know, I think that was unintentional. I do not think her character is smart enough to have made that pun.
Beverly wraps things up by saying,
They're brothers, Data. Brothers forgive.
Which was dumb.
And made me throw up a little bit.
Brothers. Overall?
The early stuff with Data going haywire went on for way too long before the episode got to what it was actually about. Then we saw Dr. Soong in his terrible makeup, and we didn't really find out a whole lot about him, which was disappointing. Then Lore showed up, and things got a little bit more interesting, but not really that much. It felt like they wanted us to project more depth and emotion onto the scenes than there actually was. Brent Spiner's acting was pretty good, considering he was playing 3 characters reacting to the others when they weren't really there, but the writing was lacking. The only part that sort of stood out was when Data and Soong were talking about human motivations. In the end, I feel like we barely learned anything about these characters over the whole episode. Compared to Data lore, this episode was a big disappointment. I gave it a C.
I gave it a C-. I was legitimately intrigued as to why Data was acting up in the beginning, so I was okay with it going on for a long time. But this was another episode that makes it pretty clear that no one really knows how Data works, and he is a potential danger. The B-plot of the 2 kids was pretty lame, and I think the biggest reason was because there was almost no time dedicated to it. Data could have taken over and shut everyone out without having that subplot. The fact that the 2 kids were brothers was supposed to link up to Data and Lore, but it really didn't. Brent Spiner playing off of himself twice was okay, but it was as if he needed to make these characters as completely different as possible and kind of overacted for both Dr. Soong and for Lore. I agree that I liked Data lore better.